22 additional quarantine facilities ang currently ginagawa na ng DPWH sa NCR. And matatapos na yan in 2 to 3 weeks.
As for the needed additional hospital beds, especially for critical care, NTF Chief Implementer Carlito Galvez Jr. says construction of more beds in some government hospitals may be ready in August.
Yung Quirino Memorial Hospital, meron siyang mahigit na 50 plus na ICU bed na pwedeng gawin. Kaya minamadali po namin gawin yon, pati po yung 250 beds doon sa East Avenue Medical Center.
Charles, apart from this, more than 500 beds are also expected once the Phase 4 of the Mega Drug Rehab Center at the Fort Magsaysay in Nueva Ecija begins operating as a quarantine facility. And Secretary Dizon adds that the Razon Group has also offered to help the government build a new 500-bed capacity mega quarantine facility in Parañaque City. Charles?
All right, thanks for that bit of good news, Greg. That was Greg Gregorio reporting live from Mandaluyong. The government is now in the second phase of its action plan against COVID-19, which, according to the National Task Force, is the most critical. In today's Laging Handa briefing, Chief Implementer Carlito Galvez Jr. said most of the responsibilities will now be shifted to local government units.
Ang ating pinakatutuunan ng pansin ay yung paring prevention, ang detection, yung tracing and testing, at saka yung efficient isolation.
Testing czar Vince Dizon meanwhile projected that the number of COVID-19 tests in the country will reach 2 million by August as the government expands free testing efforts.
Papagapit na po tayo ng papagapit sa ating ultimate goal na makakatest tayo ng 10 milyong Pilipino.
But for tracing czar Benjamin Magalong, LGUs need to enhance their contact tracing efforts after an online study showed that less than 1% of the 600 offices surveyed were found to have an effective system.
Kailangan po natin ng data analytics. Another is the use of our technical support teams, our encoders or data encoders for that matter. And finally, our community support, which is usually made up of our BHERTs.
Malacanang thanks China for making it known that it will prioritize the Philippines once the Asian giant develops a vaccine against COVID-19. Pala spokesperson Harry Roque expressed confidence that other Philippine allies will keep the country in mind once they come up with a vaccine. In his fifth SONA, President Duterte said he had appealed to Chinese President Xi Jinping to prioritize Manila in its bid to develop shots against the disease.
Saan po natin na ibang natin sa Europa at iba pang parte ng daigdig ay isi-share din sa atin ang kanilang mga vaccine kung meron na po sila. Yan po ay fruits of an independent foreign policy where we are friends to all and enemies to no one.
Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte reminds business owners in the city that they may lose their license if they continue to ignore mandatory health protocols in the workplace. For the latest update, we have Maan Enriquez. She's reporting live from Quezon City. Maan, what exactly prompted Mayor Belmonte to issue this warning?
Charles, the Quezon City Epidemiology and Surveillance Unit is monitoring 15 companies showing clusterings of COVID-19 cases.
Nearly 300 workplace-related infections have been recorded so far in Quezon City, mostly from call center companies. The QC Epidemiology and Surveillance Unit only found out about the cases through tips from concerned employees, some of whom allege that minimum health protocols were not followed in the workplace.
Walang provisions of na mga alcohol, walang provisions na mga ganito na nire-require natin as a minimum standard.
Dr. Rolly Cruz explained that the no work, no pay policy in some companies also contributed to the surge of infections.
Kaya minsan nagkakahawahan, yung mga may symptoms na, pumapasok pa rin.
Aside from the growing number of cases, head data profiler Wilson Atilano says contact tracing becomes challenging as some companies do not cooperate.
Meron kasi kaming isang company, merong isang reported cases lang siya, no? Isang company daw po na hindi daw nagre-report sa amin. Lahat na pala dun sa office na yun, sa buong floor na yun, nagkaroon na ng transmission. So more than 70 plus.
Mayor Joy Belmonte has issued a memorandum to call centers and other offices in the city with more than 100 employees. The guidelines include the no-entry policy for sick or symptomatic employees and mandatory wearing of face masks even while taking calls and talking to customers. Violation of protocols may lead to the suspension or revocation of business permit. Overall, the QCLGU is ramping up its contact tracing efforts. 300 barangay workers will undergo training next week to join the city's pool of contact tracers. The target is to have at least a pair of contact tracers in each of the city's 142 barangays.
Importante doon ay taga-barangay sila. Alam nila kung saan yung pasikot-sikot doon sa barangay nila.
The LGU has also finished training about 150 nurses and medical technologists who will collect samples for the RT-PCR and the rapid test.
Charles, the LGU is also looking to open its first molecular laboratory in 2 weeks. That's on top of increasing capacity of the city's quarantine facilities from 500 beds to 1,400 beds by end of August. Charles?
Thank you. That was Marian Enriquez reporting live from Quezon City. We are pausing for a quick break. One News Now. We'll be right back. I'm Charles Lejano. You're still watching One News Now. Metro Manila mayors want to extend the present GCQ status in the NCR beyond July. MMDA Chairman Danilo Lim says mayors are confident that they can handle minimal restrictions to the movement of their constituents. Lim says local executives will comply with whatever the IATF recommends. But he also said that the mayors are aware of their responsibility should GCQ be extended despite the rising number of cases in Metro Manila.
Yung mga mayors natin, magiging malaki yung responsibilidad nila dahil sila yung talagang pag nakita nila na isang barangay na yan, delikado, critical, maraming kaso, then i-lockdown nila.
Meanwhile, Environment Secretary Roy Cimatu believes Cebu City is ready to return to GCQ. Cimatu gave credit to the LGU's extensive contact tracing efforts, which has improved case doubling time in the city.
I recommended for the GCQ, General Committee Quarantine for Cebu City. Kasi bumaba na yung doubling time, bumaba na yung number of death, bumaba na yung number of new cases, bumaba na recoveries, tumaas.
The Corrections Bureau says it's cooperating with the NBI on the probe of the deaths of high-profile inmates due to COVID-19. The Bucor also belied reports that another high-profile inmate in Bilibid had succumbed to the disease. Ryan Ang with the rest of the story.
High-profile inmate Raymond Dominguez is alive, contrary to reports that he died last Sunday. The Bureau of Corrections shared a video showing the 35-year-old convict seemingly active and well. According to them, the video was taken last Tuesday. The Bucor says he's sick with COVID-19 and is currently in quarantine in Site Harry, inside the National Bilibid Prison in Muntinlupa.
Kasama yan sa ating cooperation with the NBI team who are investigating the situation. So lahat po ng kailangan nilang requirements ay tinutulungan natin sila na makuha.
Based on the result of the PCR swab test that Dominguez gave his relatives, he tested positive for the coronavirus on June 17. He was brought to Site Harry, where he stayed together with JB Sebastian and 4 other high-profile inmates from Building 14. Sebastian died of COVID-19 on July 18, and this worried relatives of the 5 remaining high-profile inmates who also stayed in Site Harry.
Sobrang bigat talaga, hindi na nga po kami makatulog, hindi na namin alam kung ano yung mararamdaman namin.
Dominguez's family refused to give a statement. The convict is allegedly experiencing only mild symptoms. He has been in isolation for a month now, but he might need to stay there for a little longer because of asthma. The other 4 high-profile inmates that came from Building 14 also have other diseases.
So makikita mo doon if they have fever, if they manifest other symptoms like diarrhea or cough. And alangan namang ibabalik mo sila doon sa pinanggalingan nila na baka makahawa pa sila.
The Bucor believes that flooding at the facility is making more inmates sick, that they're already addressing the problem.
Umulan ng malakas. Pag umulan talaga ng malakas, flash flood ang nangyayari doon. Ang ginagawa nga natin ay tinatapo-tapo lang natin. Pero sa ngayon ay meron na tayong water pump.
For now, there are only 13 inmates left in Site Harry. They're being monitored by doctors from the Bilibid Hospital. The inmates are scheduled to undergo another round of swab tests. For News 5, Ryan Ang, We Are One News.
And the country's most wanted fugitive finally falls to the police. Ruben Ecleo Jr. was arrested at a golf resort in San Fernando, Pampanga early morning today, together with his driver, Benji Fernan. Police seized over 100,000 pesos cash from the cult leader. In 2006, the Sandigan Bayan sentenced him to 31 years in prison for his role in anomalous infrastructure projects in San Jose, Surigao del Norte, while serving as mayor from 1991 to 1994. In 2012, the former Dinagat Island congressman was also found guilty of killing his wife Alona and was sentenced to life behind bars. The DILG had previously offered a 2 million peso reward for his capture. Ecleo is still denying that he's guilty of those crimes.
2.3 something. Yun pa yun na nakawin ko, bigla naman. Tapos yung parisay naman, papatay ko dahil nasawa yun naman.
Malacanang assures the public that bilateral talks between the Philippines and Malaysia will continue. This after the Malaysian government summoned Manila's ambassador over Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin's statement, in which he said Sabah is not in Malaysia.
We recognize po na this matter that we should not affect our ongoing bilateral ties with Malaysia. It has not affected it in the recent years, and we will continue to have healthy bilateral relations.
Locsin made the remark in relation to another tweet posted by the U.S. Embassy in the Philippines. Malaysia recognizes Sabah as its territory since 1963. But the Philippines claims that the Sultanate of Sulu rightfully owns the territory after it was gifted in exchange for helping the Sultan of Brunei defeat his adversaries. For more updates, follow News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. And you can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. We are One News.